debate, but I understand if you want to say hi and update people or ask questions. That's fine. And we're doing pretty good at chatting, as it will. I think the debate may be coming back in a moment. So, not yet. Yeah, stand by your man, Apocalypse. Protect Alan. Oh no, Desert. So, oh no. Why is he upset? Oh, I thought you meant Andy Bong. Pete and Gwen, I'm glad you're here. I'm very glad you're here. I need to go check my mail. I've been here and... All right, it looks like it may be coming back. It's coming back. Please feel free to comment. Be kind to one another, but be vicious to them.
Debate. We're here at the Venetian, Las Vegas. Tonight we've been focusing in a lot on the Middle East, but let's turn to some other world threats that you will potentially face as Commander-in-Chief. Ms. Fiorina, candidates here have called the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un a maniac who is mentally unstable. Last week he said he now has a hydrogen bomb. If you're elected president, what would you do about Kim Jong-un?
Well, first, Kim Jong-un is a dangerous leader, without a doubt. And both Republican and Democrat administrations have been completely ineffective in dealing with him. So we must continue to isolate him. We will need China as part of that strategy. China is a rising adversary. So one of the things we have to do if we want China's support is to push back on China. They, too, recognize one thing, strength and their own economic interest. I have done business in China for 25 years. So I know that in order to get China to cooperate with us, we must first actually retaliate against their cyber attacks so they know we're serious. We have to push back on their desire to control the trade route through the South China Sea, through which flows $5 trillion worth of goods and services every year. We cannot let them control the disputed islands, and we must work with the Australians, the South Koreans, the Japanese, and the Filipinos to contain China. And then we must ask for their support and their help with North Korea, because believe it or not, China is as concerned about Kim Jong-un as we are.
Dr. Carson, what would you do about Kim Jong-un?
Well, I definitely believe that he's unstable, and I do, in fact, believe that China has a lot more influence with him than we do. But we also recognize that North Korea is in severe financial straits, and they have decided to use their resources to build their military rather than to feed their people and to take care of the various humanitarian responsibilities that they have. We can capitalize upon that. You know, we should use our economic power in lots of different ways. I think we can use that in order to keep Putin contained, because he's a one-horse show, energy. And we have an abundance of energy, but we have archaic energy exportation rules. We need to get rid of those, allow ourselves to really make Europe dependent on us and other parts of the world dependent on us for energy, put him back in his little box where he belongs. And, you know, we need to be doing lots of other things with the resources that we have. So economic power works just as well as military power, perhaps even better. And speaking of that, our military needs to be upgraded. You know, you look at things like our Ohio-class submarines, they're 25 years old. Our Minuteman III missiles, they are 34 years old. Our B-52 bombers, 50 years old. You know, if we don't get the military right, nothing else matters.
Thank you, Dr. Carson. Dana and Hugh, you have some questions as well.
Governor Christie, you've said if China launches a cyber attack against the U.S. on your watch, quote, they're going to see cyber warfare like they have never seen before. What exactly would that response look like?
Well, what it would look like is we have one of the great advantages of America being the open society that we are, is we're not hiding things from the American people. But China every day is conducting business in a way that it hides things from their people. So if they want to come in and attack all the personnel records in the federal government, which they've done, and which they now have my social security number and my fingerprints, as well as maybe some other folks who are on this stage, the fact is they need to be fought back on. And what we need to do is go at the things that they are most sensitive and most embarrassing to them, that they're hiding, get that information and then put it out in public. Let the Chinese people start to digest how corrupt the Chinese government is, how they steal from the Chinese people, and how they're enriching oligarchs all throughout China. They need to understand that. And we need to take those type of steps. This president has seen personnel records of people who have sacrificed for the American people and for the federal government stolen by the Chinese, and he's done nothing in return. This is why I said at the beginning that this administration, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, through their foreign policy, have betrayed the American people, because the weakness they've displayed has led to Putin's incursions in the Middle East and in Eastern Europe, and has led to significant problems in the Middle East as well, and the death and murder of lots of folks.
Governor Bush, what you just heard from Governor Christie, are you concerned that that could really escalate with China, that they would retaliate and, for example, as the NSA has said, attack the U.S. and maybe its power grid, which the Chinese have the capability to do?
I completely agree with Chris. And this administration has been so lax. Think about it. Hillary Clinton's using a private server where classified information goes by. This is a serious administration. The president receives an inspector general's report that the Office of Personnel Management could be hacked into. They had antiquated firewalls. 23 million files are in the hands of the Chinese, allegedly, including, by the way, members of the press, it turns out, last week. Maybe that's the only part that's good news, so that you guys can get a feel for what it's like now to see this type of attack. This is something we have to have the best defensive capabilities. We need to coordinate all of our efforts with the private sector. We need to give them liability relief so that we can do that. And offensively, we need to have capabilities second to none. We need to create a situation where they know that there will be adverse impacts if they continue to do what they're doing. They'll respect that. They'll respect the United States that is serious about protecting our infrastructure. If we don't do it, we'll continue to see exactly what's happening, not just from the Chinese, by the way, the Russians and rogue actors, including ISIS. This is a serious part of the 21st century security challenge that we face.
Mr. Trump, Dr. Carson just referenced the single most important job of the president, the command, the control, and the care of our nuclear forces. And he mentioned the triad. The B-52s are older than I am. The missiles are old. The submarines are aging out. It's an executive order. It's a commander-in-chief decision. What's your priority among our nuclear triad?
Well, first of all, I think we need somebody absolutely that we can trust, who's totally responsible, who really knows what he or she is doing. That is so powerful and so important. And one of the things that I'm frankly most proud of is that in 2003, 2004, I was totally against going into Iraq because you're going to destabilize the Middle East. I called it very strongly, and it was very important. But we have to be extremely vigilant and extremely careful when it comes to nuclear. Nuclear changes the whole ballgame. Frankly, I would have said, get out of Syria, get out. If we didn't have the power of weaponry today, the power is so massive that we can't just leave areas that 50 years ago or 75 years ago, we wouldn't care. It was hand-to-hand combat. The biggest problem this world has today is not President Obama with global warming, which is inconceivable. This is what he's saying. The biggest problem we have today is nuclear proliferation, and having some maniac, having some madman go out and get a nuclear weapon. That's, in my opinion, that is the single biggest problem that our country faces.
Of the three legs of the triad, though, do you have a priority? Because I want to go to Senator Rubio after that.
I think to me, nuclear is just the power, the devastation is very important to me.
Senator Rubio, do you have a response?
I do. Well, first, let's explain to people home what the triad is. Maybe a lot of people haven't heard that terminology before. The triad is our ability of the United States to conduct nuclear attacks using airplanes, using missiles launched from silos or from the ground, and also from our nuclear subs, ability to attack. And it's important, all three of them are critical. It gives us the ability at deterrence. Now, some have become more critical than others, for example, the submarines. And that's the Ohio-class submarine that needs to be modernized. The air component also needs to be modernized. The B-52, as someone earlier pointed out, is an outdated model that was flown by the grandparents of people that are flying it now. And we need a serious modernization program as well on our silo-launched missiles. All three are critical for the defense.
Thank you, Senator Rubio. Some of you on this stage have questioned whether your opponents have the right temperament, to be in control of the nuclear codes. Dana, you have a question on this.
Mr. Trump, just this weekend, you said Senator Cruz is not qualified to be president because he doesn't have the right temperament and acted like a maniac when he arrived in the Senate. But last month, you said you were open to naming Senator Cruz as your running mate.
I did.
So why would you be willing to put somebody who's a maniac one heartbeat away from the presidency?
But I've gotten to know him over the last 3 or 4 days. He has a wonderful temperament. He's just fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Senator Cruz, you have not been willing to attack Mr. Trump in public, but you did question his judgment in having control of America's nuclear arsenal during a private meeting with supporters. Why are you willing to say things about him in private and not in public?
Dana, what I said in private is exactly what I'll say here, which is that the judgment that every voter is making of every one of us up here is who has the experience, who has the vision, who has the judgment to be commander-in-chief. That is the most important decision for the voters to make. That's a standard I'm held to, and it's a standard everyone else is held to. And I will note, in the whole course of this discussion about our foreign policy threats, it actually illustrates the need for clarity of focus. My daughters, Caroline and Catherine, came tonight. They're 7 and 5. And you think about the Los Angeles schools canceling their schools today. And every parent is wondering, how do we keep our kids safe? We need a commander-in-chief who does what Ronald Reagan did with communism, which is he set out a global strategy to defeat Soviet communism, and he directed all of it. I'm answering the question, Dana. He directed all of his forces to defeating communism. One of the things we've seen here is how easy it is for Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton to get distracted from dealing with radical Islamic terrorism. They won't even call it by its name. We need a president who stands up, number one, and says we will defeat ISIS, and number two, says the greatest national security threat facing America is a nuclear Iran.
Senator, a lot of people
and we need to be focused on defeating radical Islamic terrorism.
Made in private. I just want to clarify. What you're saying right now is you do believe Mr. Trump has the judgment to be commander-in-chief.
What I'm saying, Dana, is that is a judgment for every voter to make. But what I can tell you is all 9 of the people here would make an infinitely better commander-in-chief than Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton.
Thank you, Senator.
And there is a real danger, Dana, when people get distracted. I'm answering the question, Wolf. There's a real danger when people get distracted by peripheral issues. They get distracted by democracy building. They get distracted about military conflicts. We need to focus on defeating jihadism. ISIS and Iran have declared war on America, and we need a commander-in-chief who will do everything necessary to keep our children safe.
Thank you, Senator.
And I will do everything necessary to keep our children safe.
Thank you, Senator. We're a month and a half away now from the first real test. Who will be the Republican presidential nominee? Q, you have a question.
Mr. Trump, my listeners tell me again and again they're worried that Hillary Clinton will win the White House because you run as an independent. Are you ready to reassure Republicans tonight that you will run as a Republican and abide by the decision of the Republicans?
I really am. I'll be honest. I really am. I mean, people have been putting me to threats. I really am.
Okay, why? Dr. Carson.
Can I just finish?
Oh, please.
I've gained great respect for the Republican leadership. I've gained great respect for many, and I'm going to even say all, in different forms, for the people on the dais. In different forms. But I have great respect for the people I've met through this process. I've never done this process before. I've never been a politician. For the last 6 months, I've been a politician. But I will tell you, I am totally committed to the Republican Party. I feel very honored to be the front runner, and I think I'll do very well if I'm chosen. If I'm so fortunate to be chosen, I think I'll do very well. Polls have come out recently say I would beat Hillary. I will do everything in my power to beat Hillary Clinton. I can promise you.
Dr. Carson, Mr. Trump just committed to stay the distance regardless of the result. How about you?
Well, the statement that I made last week that I would leave the party was contingent upon whether, in fact, the party acts like they have in the past with a lot of subterfuge and dishonesty, or like they're going to act now, because I spoke to Reince Priebus and he assured me that the Washington Post writer had it all wrong, and that they're not going to be engaging in anything to thwart the will of the people. That's why I got into this race as a member of We the People, to try to bring some honesty and integrity back to the process.
All right, candidates, we have more coming up when we come back. Everyone will have an opportunity to explain why this particular candidate, each of you on the stage, believes he or she should be the Republican presidential nominee.